Hey there, welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time here, you just landed on the right video at exactly the right time, because I'm about to break down something that literally just happened in February 2026 that is going to affect every single gun owner in America. We are talking about a court decision that wiped out 10 different types of gun laws in multiple states.
Several states have passed new legislation. These changes are now highlighted on the map.
Doing 2 months ago is now perfectly fine to do today. Stick around because by the time this video ends, you're going to know exactly what changed and how it affects you. Before I jump into the details, let me ask you a quick question. Are you subscribed to this channel right now? If not, you're making a huge mistake because gun laws in this country change literally every single week. And most gun owners have no idea what is happening until it is too late. We make videos
Breaking
like this
news,
one
the
to keep
Supreme
you
Court has
informed
issued
so
a
you do
major
not
ruling on gun laws
accidentally
with
break a new
significant
law
implications.
or miss out on new rights you just gained. Hit that red subscribe button right now and click the bell so YouTube actually shows you our videos when we post them. Seriously, it takes 2 seconds and it could save you from a major legal headache down the road.
Smooth and reliable.
All right, so let me start by explaining how we got here because this court decision did not just pop up randomly. About 3
Old
years
laws,
ago,
permits, long
several
waits,
gun
strict
rights
checks, no
groups,
open carry.
including
New laws,
some,
no permits, shorter
you
waits,
have
instant
definitely
checks,
heard
open
of,
carry allowed.
got together and decided to challenge a whole bunch of state gun laws that they believed were unconstitutional.
Your Honor, the Fourth Amendment protects against these searches. The evidence is clear and we ask the court to suppress it.
And they filed lawsuits in federal court. The cases bounced around in the legal system for a while, going from district courts to appeals courts. And finally, in February of this year, one of the federal circuit courts issued a ruling that struck down a ton of these laws all at once. The decision was over 200 pages long, and it basically said that a whole category of gun restrictions violate the Second Amendment and cannot be enforced anymore. Now let me walk you through the 10 specific types of laws that got struck down. And I am going to explain each one in a way that makes sense even if you are not a lawyer. Law number 1 is magazine capacity restrictions. You know how some states said you can only have magazines that hold 10 rounds or maybe 15 rounds maximum? Well, those laws are done. The court said limiting magazine size is unconstitutional because it directly restricts your ability to defend yourself in a dangerous situation. Think about it like this. If someone breaks into your house and you miss a few shots because you are scared and your hands are shaking, you might need more than 10 rounds to stop the threat. The court agreed with that logic and said states cannot arbitrarily decide how many rounds is enough for self-defense. So if you live in states like New York or California or Connecticut that had these magazine limits, you can now legally own and use standard 30-round AR magazines or 17-round Glock magazines or whatever capacity the gun was designed to use. Law number 2 deals with so-called assault weapon bans. And I need to explain what that really means because there's a lot of confusion about this term. When politicians talk about assault weapons, they are not talking about actual military machine guns because those are already super regulated under federal law and have been since 1934. What they are really talking about are normal semi-automatic rifles that look scary because they have features like adjustable stocks or pistol grips or barrel shrouds. The court looked at these bans and said, wait a minute, you are banning guns based on cosmetic features that do not actually make the gun more dangerous. A wooden stock hunting rifle fires the exact same way as an AR-15 with a pistol grip. They both shoot 1 bullet per trigger pull. Banning one but not the other based purely on appearance is irrational and unconstitutional. So in the states covered by this court ruling, those assault weapon bans are no longer valid. You can now own AR-style rifles, AK-style rifles, and other semi-auto rifles that were previously banned. Law number 3 has to do with mandatory waiting periods when you buy a gun. Several states had laws saying even if you pass your background check instantly, you still have to wait 10 days or 14 days before you can actually pick up the gun you just purchased. The court said these long waiting periods serve no legitimate purpose, especially if you already own guns or if you need a firearm urgently for protection, like if you have been threatened or stalked. The court ruled that waiting periods beyond 72 hours are unconstitutional unless the state can show rock-solid evidence that they actually prevent crimes or suicides. Most states could not provide that evidence, so their waiting periods got thrown out. Now, when you buy a gun and pass the instant background check, you should be able to take it home the same day or within 3 days at most. Hold on real quick because I need to tell you something important. Studies show that nearly 60% of gun owners get their legal information from unreliable sources like random Facebook posts or that one friend who acts like an expert but really has no clue what he's talking about. Do not be part of that 60%. Subscribe to this channel because we actually research this stuff. We read the actual court documents, and we give you accurate information you can trust. Click that subscribe button right now so you always know the truth about what is happening with gun laws. Law number 4 is about gun-free zones. And this is a big one that is going to change where you can legally carry your firearm. Lots of states and cities had created gun-free zones and public parks on buses and trains, in certain government buildings, and all kinds of other places. The court said, here's the problem with that. If the government tells you that you cannot carry a gun to protect yourself in a certain place, then the government has an obligation to protect you in that place with armed security or police. You cannot just declare an area gun-free and then provide zero security, leaving people completely defenseless. The court ruled that most gun-free zones outside of schools and curses do not have adequate security, so they are unconstitutional. What this means for you is that a lot of those no guns allowed signs you see in public places are now legally meaningless, and you can carry there as long as you are otherwise following the law. Law number 5 is about permits. You need to buy guns. Some states had laws requiring you to get a special permit before you could even purchase a handgun, and getting that permit involved paying fees, taking classes, and waiting for government approval. The court compared this to the poll taxes that used to exist where people had to pay money to vote, and everyone agrees those were unconstitutional. The court said charging people money and making them get permission to exercise a constitutional right is no different. You cannot make people pay for the right to free speech, and you cannot make them pay for the right to keep and bear arms either. So those purchase permit requirements are now gone. You still have to pass the federal background check when you buy from a dealer, but you do not need a separate state permit anymore. Law number 6 is closely related, and it deals with concealed carry permits specifically. Some states had what is called MAS issue systems, where even if you met all the requirements and passed all the checks, the local police chief or sheriff could still deny you a carry permit just because they personally felt you did not have a good enough reason to carry a gun. This gave government officials way too much power to deny constitutional rights based on their own personal opinions and biases. The court said that is unconstitutional. If you meet the objective requirements like passing a background check, you have to be issued a permit. The government cannot say no just because they feel like it. So may issue permit systems are now illegal. And if your state had one, it has to be changed to a shall issue system where permits are granted to everyone who qualifies. If you are getting useful information from this video, then you absolutely need to see what we have coming up next. We are about to release a video covering the 5 most common ways gun owners accidentally become felons without even realizing it. And trust me, some of these are going to shock you. Make sure you are subscribed so that video shows up in your feed the second we post it. You do not want to be the person who learns about this stuff after it is too late. Law number 7 is about regulations on gun dealers and the stores that sell firearms. Federal law already heavily regulates gun dealers with background checks, record-keeping requirements, inspections, and all kinds of rules. But some states decided to pile on additional state-level licensing requirements that were expensive, complicated, and in some cases clearly designed to drive gun shops out of business. The court said states cannot add extra layers of regulation beyond what federal law already requires because it creates barriers that make it harder for people to access their Second Amendment rights. If someone has a federal firearms license, they should be able to operate without having to get a separate, expensive state license. This ruling is going to allow more gun shops to open and stay in business, which is good for consumers because it means more competition and better prices. Law number 8 covers ammunition restrictions, and this is an area where some states had gotten really creative with their attempts to limit gun rights. A few states passed laws requiring you to go through a background check every single time you bought ammunition, or they limited how much ammo you could buy at one time. The court said this is ridiculous because ammunition is obviously necessary to exercise your Second Amendment right. A gun without ammunition is useless. So restricting ammo is the same as restricting guns. The court struck down these ammunition background check requirements and purchase limits. Now you can buy as much ammunition as you want, whenever you want, without getting permission from the government every single time. Law number 9 deals with red flag laws, and I know this topic gets people fired up on both sides. So let me explain exactly what the court said. Red flag laws allow police to temporarily confiscate guns from people who are deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. The court did not say red flag laws are completely unconstitutional, but they put very strict requirements on how these laws can be used. Now, if someone files a red flag petition against you, the government must give you a hearing in front of a judge within 72 hours. You have the right to be there with a lawyer, you have the right to present your own evidence, and you have the right to question the people who are accusing you. Before this ruling, some states were seizing guns based on flimsy accusations and not giving people hearings for weeks or months. That is no longer allowed. Your due process rights must be protected from the very beginning. Law number 10 is about gun registration requirements. Several states had passed laws requiring gun owners to register their firearms with the state government, creating a government database of who owns which guns. The court struck these laws down for two main reasons. First, registration violates privacy rights because the government should not be keeping detailed lists of people who are exercising constitutional rights. We do not make people register before they speak freely or practice their religion, so we should not make them register before they exercise their Second Amendment rights. Second, there is a legitimate historical concern that registration lists have been used as the first step toward confiscation. The court said mandatory gun registration serves no legitimate public safety purpose that is not already served by background checks at the point of sale. So these registration requirements are unconstitutional. So those are the 10 categories of laws that just got struck down. And I want to make sure you understand the big picture here. This is not just about one or two specific laws in one state. This is a sweeping decision that affects multiple types of gun restrictions across several states. And the legal reasoning in this decision is going to be used to challenge similar laws in other states that were not directly part of this case. We are seeing a major shift in how courts think about the Second Amendment, and gun rights are being taken much more seriously now than they were just a few years ago. But here is what you have to understand. Just because these laws got struck down in this court case does not mean every state is immediately going to comply. Some states are going to appeal this decision to higher courts. Some states are going to try to pass new laws that get around this ruling. And some states are just going to ignore the ruling and keep enforcing their old laws until someone sues them. This is why staying informed is so important. You cannot just assume that because you heard about this court decision, everything is automatically different in your state. You need to verify what actually applies where you live. Let me also be super clear about something else. Even though some gun laws just got struck down, there are still tons of other laws that remain in effect. Federal law still prohibits felons from owning guns. Federal law still requires background checks when you buy from a licensed dealer. Federal law still bans certain people like domestic abusers and drug addicts from having firearms. State laws about carrying while drunk or using a gun to commit a crime are all still fully valid. So do not hear about this court ruling and think that means you can do whatever you want. You still have to follow all the laws that are still on the books. And if you break those laws, you will face serious criminal penalties. I want to talk about what is probably going to happen next, because this court decision is really just the beginning of a much bigger legal fight. Gun rights organizations are already planning new lawsuits in states that were not part of this case. They are going to use the legal reasoning from this decision to attack magazine bans, assault, weapon bans, and carry restrictions in places like Maryland, Massachusetts, Illinois, Hawaii, and other states with strict gun control. Over the next couple of years, we are probably going to see a wave of successful court challenges that strike down even more gun laws. This February ruling created a legal framework that makes it much easier to challenge gun restrictions. At the same time, anti-gun politicians are not going to just give up and go home. They are already working on new strategies to limit gun rights in ways they think might survive court challenges. Some states are talking about imposing massive taxes on guns and ammo to make them too expensive for regular people to afford. Some are looking at expanding who can be sued when a gun is used in a crime to include manufacturers, distributors, and dealers. Some are using zoning laws to make it impossible for gun stores to open anywhere near residential areas. The fight over gun rights never really ends. It just moves to new battlegrounds. So, what should you actually do with all this information I just gave you? First, if you live in one of the states where these laws got struck down, you should seriously consider taking advantage of your newly restored rights. If you have been wanting to buy a standard capacity magazine or a certain type of rifle that was banned before, now is your chance. Just make absolutely sure you verify that your specific state is covered by this ruling because the legal details can get complicated. Second, even if you do not live in one of the affected states, you should pay close attention because similar legal challenges are probably coming to your state in the near future. Third, you should consider joining and supporting the gun rights organizations that are fighting these battles in court because they need money and members to keep winning these cases. Here's some practical advice for staying out of legal trouble while all these changes are happening. Number one, always verify the law before you act. Even if you think something is legal now because of this court ruling, double check with a lawyer or a reputable gun rights organization in your state before you do anything. Number two, document everything. Keep receipts when you buy guns or accessories. Keep records of any interactions you have with police about firearms. If something ever goes wrong, having documentation can save you. Number three, get proper training, even if it is not legally required. Knowing how to safely handle your guns and when you can legally use them in self-defense is your responsibility. And it can protect you legally if you ever have to use a gun to defend yourself. Let me address something I see in the comments all the time. People ask whether court decisions like this one can be reversed or overturned. The answer is yes. Technically, any court decision can be appealed to a higher court or even overturned by the Supreme Court later. But right now, the legal trend is strongly in favor of gun rights. The Supreme Court has issued several major decisions protecting the Second Amendment. In the current makeup of the court suggests that trend will continue. So, while it is theoretically possible this decision could be reversed, it is not very likely anytime soon. What is much more likely is we will see even more gun control laws struck down as courts apply the reasoning from cases like this one. I want to talk about responsibility for a minute because I think this is important. If you are a gun owner, you have responsibilities that go along with your rights. You have a responsibility to store your guns safely, especially if kids can access them. You have a responsibility to follow all the laws that are still in effect, even if you personally disagree with them. You have a responsibility to get training and practice regularly so you can handle your firearms competently. And you have a responsibility to represent gun owners well, because how you act affects how the general public views all of us. If you're careless or reckless, you make it harder for everyone to keep and expand our rights. Let me quickly summarize everything we covered so you have the key points locked in your head. The major federal court ruling in February 2026 struck down 10 different categories of gun laws, including magazine capacity limits, assault weapon bans, long waiting periods, gun F-free zones, purchase permit requirements, MAIA's issue carry systems, dealer licensing requirements, ammunition restrictions, red flag law procedures, and gun registration mandates. These changes currently apply to specific states that were part of the lawsuit, but the legal reasoning will likely spread to other states through future court cases. You need to verify what applies in your area, stay informed about ongoing developments, and continue following all laws that remain valid. This is a huge win for Second Amendment rights, but the legal battle is far from over. Do not just watch this video and forget about it. Take action. Check the laws in your state. Talk to a gun rights lawyer if you have specific questions. Join organizations that are fighting for your rights. And most importantly, stay educated by subscribing to this channel so you never miss critical updates. We have got incredible content coming, including our next video about the best defensive firearms to buy in 2026. Now that some restrictions have been lifted, you need to see that video. So if you want to stay ahead of these updates and actually understand what's happening instead of hearing rumors online, make sure you subscribe to the channel.